Now I get to walk you through how to be able to buy a house and actually invest recession proof. The wonderful thing about property is, if done right, you can create a scenario in which it is extremely unlikely for you to be at risk of losing your money, losing your investment, or even losing the property. Let me explain a little bit about what I mean. So let's just say you're going to buy a house. Okay, nice and simple, same as usual, buy a house, nice and easy. And the value of this house is £100,000. Okay, 100k. It's the value of the property. The mortgage on the house is £75,000. Again, nice and simple, all pretty standard. Now let's just say the rent on the house is £600 a month. Okay, pretty standard rental for this kind of house, depending on where you are in the country, of course. Okay, £600 a month. And then, of course, as we went through in the cash flow video, you've got some costs to consider. So first one, your mortgage. So let's just say your interest-only mortgage costs you £200 a month. Okay, your management. Again, typically at 10%. Okay, your management at 10% is going to be £60 a month. Your operating expense, your MO, again, sitting at 10% a month. Okay, nice and simple. Again, £60. Now, what this does is this leaves you with a net cash flow of £280 per calendar month. Okay, nice and easy. So hopefully you understand there's nothing complex, nothing untoward here. Now let's just say you move your life forward 10 years time. Okay, in 10 years time, the house, of course, as an average will have doubled in value. And I say as an average, and it'll become abundantly clear why I keep saying that in a second. So now it's worth, say, $200,000. The mortgage on an interest-only mortgage, still $75,000. Okay. Now the rents in the UK have never, ever gone down for single lets. Maybe micro pockets, they would have gone down fractionally, but they would have always recovered very, very well and gone up. As a matter of fact, rents in the UK typically go up between 3 to 5% a year as standard. Okay. Fantastic win. So your rents inevitably in 10 years time would be significantly higher than £600. But as I want you to understand the concept of what we're doing and not get bogged down by the numbers, what we're going to do is say the rents are exactly the same. Okay. Oh, okay. So the rents are exactly the same in the future. Okay. Nice and easy. Now your mortgage payments. So mortgage interest rates, what they tend to do, what the banks do, is they base it on the Bank of England base rate. Now, the Bank of England base rate right now, as of recording this video, is extremely low. Okay, and hopefully it's still the same as of viewing this video. And with the Bank of England base rate being extremely low, what the mortgage lenders do is they say, well, our interest is X amount above LIBOR. Okay, so London's Bank of England base rate, okay, LIBOR. So they say 2% or 1% or 3% above LIBOR, whatever it is. Now that's a pretty standard action that banks do and mortgage lenders do. They tend to keep it X amount above LIBOR, and that's where they stay, and that's their figure. They don't tend to move much around from that. So there's not much movement there. The place where you tend to get the biggest concern or fear is what happens if the interest, so the Bank of England base rate, increases significantly. Now there's only one time when it's been recorded in history that happened, and that was in the 80s. And that happened because Parliament actually controlled the Bank of England base rate. And because they made such a monumental balls up, the Bank of England went, we're not letting you do that again. We are going to control the base rate ourselves. Now, the base rate being extremely low basically means that everybody's mortgages tend to be low across the entire country, and that's how they stimulate the economy. Now, if something goes wrong and they decide, oh, well, what we're going to do is we're going to increase the Bank of England base rate, if they were to increase it quickly, that means everybody's mortgage costs would go up, and they would go up significantly if they increase it quickly. Now, interestingly enough, with most people, when they have money coming in, they tend to become comfortable living at that level of income, and their expenses tend to balance out. And if you then increase the Bank of England base rate quickly and increase everyone's mortgage costs quickly, inevitably the vast majority of people that live hand to mouth, which there is a lot, would then find themselves in a position where financially it is unaffordable. And what you tend to find is a lot of bankruptcies and repossessions and all that stuff would start to kick off after about 8 to 10 months of that happening. Now, nobody wants to be in power when that happens, and therefore it is extremely unlikely that the Bank of England will then raise the base rates quickly. They do not want the entire economy to go bankrupt. So what they would be forced to do, therefore, is raise it extremely slowly so that people can acclimatize to the marginal interest and marginal cost increases on their expenses every single month. So the likelihood of the Bank of England base rate increasing quickly is extremely small, and the likelihood of banks increasing their interest rate quickly is again extremely small, because they would never be allowed to do it. Therefore, in 10 years' time, in all likelihood, mortgage costs would be reasonably similar to what they are now. Now, again, the same as what we did with rent. We're going to basically just say, look, it's the same for the exercise, so you understand the principle of it and not get bogged down with the numbers. Now, your management is still 10% of the rent, which is still going to be the same, £60. Again, rents would have gone up, so that would go up, but I want you to understand the concept. And your MO exactly the same, which then leaves you with a net cash flow in 10 years' time of £280 per calendar month. And you might sit there and go, oh, okay, well, that's fairly standard. It's very, there's nothing untoward there. Obviously, if your rents have gone up in line, your cash flow would have gone up in line, but that's a different conversation. Okay. Now, the interesting thing is the value of the property has doubled at this point. Has the value of the property affected your cash flow at all? Well, no, of course not. Okay, you can see here the value of the property has no bearing whatsoever on your cash flow. The only thing that has a bearing on your cash flow is your mortgage when it comes to that calculation. Now, that being said, if instead of the market doubling in value, in this 10 years, you find yourself in a recession and the value of the property market drops down a record-breaking 25%, okay, and puts you at £75,000, okay, in terms of property value, would the value of the property over here affect the cash flow at all? No. So that then puts you in a position that once you have refinanced, or once you have the mortgage in place, the likelihood of the cash flow being affected is extremely small. Whether the property value goes up, whether it goes down, whether it goes sideways, it is completely irrelevant. You're now in a position where you've managed to buy a property completely recession resistant, recession proof. Now, I want you to write this down, and this is an important term, and that is cash flow is king or queen, depending on who you are. Okay, but cash flow is the ruler of the realm. It is the most important item to consider. That is why when it comes on our priorities, it is number one, because you understand how to buy for cash flow, irrespective of what happens to the marketplace. That puts you in a position where you are financially set and secure.